Inside Angola Prison, America's most feared prison, where inmates go to die. Chaos erupts in the yard of Angola Prison as the morning sun rises over the historic grounds. Inmates scramble for safety, piercing screams piercing through the air. Guards shout commands, voices shattering against the concrete walls, but the tension is palpable. A fight has broken out, a gang clash fueled by old rivalries and fresh grievances. Suddenly, a loud bang echoes, a steel pipe shatters across the asphalt. Blood spills, chaos reigns, and the question looms: who will survive the day? As officers rush in, the camera pans to a shivering inmate, cornered against a wall, fear etched across his face, a silent witness to the brutality that unfolds. Just as a guard lunges forward, the scene cuts to black, leaving the audience gasping. What led to this eruption of violence? To understand the chaos inside Angola, we must rewind to the life of Marcus Washington. Sentenced to life for armed robbery and murder, Marcus was transferred here after years of incarceration in lesser facilities. At just 25, he was thrust into a world where survival meant navigating through a minefield of threats, both from fellow inmates and the oppressive atmosphere of the prison itself. Angola, known as the Farm, sprawled over 18,000 acres, a former plantation where inmates worked the fields under the blazing sun, a grim reminder of its dark past. From the moment he entered the heavy iron gates, Marcus felt the weight of despair. Surrounded by hardened criminals, he quickly realized that in Angola, trust was a commodity rarely exchanged. Within days, he observed the subtle signs of instability, whispers of betrayal, the flash of anger in the eyes of his neighbors, and the ominous presence of guards who turned a blind eye to the brewing storms. As the days stretched into weeks, Marcus's anxiety grew. Isolation thrived here, and the ever-present question gnawed at his sanity. How far would he need to go to stay alive? The tension peaked during a sweltering July morning when news spread of a planned escape. Inmates were whispering about a tunnel, a way out from the nightmare. The guards, sensing the impending crisis, increased security, but their efforts only stoked the inmates' desperation. Marcus, caught in the crossfire, felt the adrenaline wash over him. This wasn't just another day, it was a potential chance for survival. As he sat in his cramped cell, the metal bars felt more like a cage than a boundary. The isolation gnawed away at him, with dark thoughts creeping in. He could hear the sound of metal clanging in the distance, the call to arms, the rally of rebellious souls. Just as he began to contemplate aligning himself with the escapees, a deafening siren pierced the air, signaling a lockdown. Guards rushed through the corridors, barking orders, and a thick spotlight illuminated the yard, casting shadows of chaos against the prison walls. In that moment of inevitable confrontation, Marcus felt the grip of fate tightening around him. Would he stand with the escapees, risking everything, or would he retreat into silence, hoping to see another dawn? Time passed slowly in the darkness of solitary confinement. Marcus found himself in the infamous Camp J, a punishment camp notorious for its harsh conditions. Days turned into weeks, and weeks melted into months, each echoing with the weight of isolation. The guards, once mere keepers of law, morphed into figures of omnipresent dread. The lights were dim, and the silence exaggerated each drop of water from the leaky pipe above his cell, a maddening rhythm that kept him awake at night. Every moment in solitary pushed Marcus deeper into his psyche. Conversations with shadows replaced his fellowship. His mind spiraled into a labyrinth of despair and regret. Memories of laughter, of music, of warmth became distant phantoms that haunted him. As time stretched thin, the prison transformed from a standard punishment to a living nightmare. In the silence of that concrete tomb, the question pushed ever closer. Was he losing his grip on reality, or was the prison itself reshaping who he was? The sound of a distant argument suddenly interrupted his thoughts. Was it the guards? The inmates? The noise grew louder, and Marcus's heart raced. The tension hung in the air like a noose. Would it lead to violence, to freedom, or to despair? A choice loomed dangerously close. Would this be yet another moment swallowed by the darkness, or a chance to reclaim his narrative amid the wreckage. The days stretched on, but the intensity in Angola prison never waned. The walls felt like they were closing in on Marcus, each tick of the clock reverberating in his mind, echoing the silence around him. He had tried to numb the psychological toll of solitary confinement, but the creeping shadows of madness felt real and suffocating. Just when he thought he couldn't endure another moment, an unexpected commotion outside his cell broke the monotony, a surge of energy that electrified the air. Through the tiny window of his cell, he could see guards rushing towards a disturbance in the yard. His heart raced. Was it another riot? The noise grew louder, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a flicker of hope. This could be a diversion, an opportunity to reconnect with the world outside the walls that confined him. As he listened intently, he caught snippets of frantic shouts and the commanding voice of a lieutenant directing the response team. "Contain the area. Move in." The tension was palpable, a charged atmosphere that thrummed with possibility. Marcus knew this could be the moment he had been waiting for, a crack in the oppressive routine of his existence. Fueled by adrenaline, he decided to take a bold risk. The authorities' focus was diverted, and in that rare moment of chaos, he could hear the distant murmur of inmates discussing the escape plan, an idea that had been brewing between the cell blocks for months. He felt the familiar pull of camaraderie, the thrill of being part of something larger than himself. Marcus pressed his face closer to the bars, gazing into the chaos. Officers were struggling to control the situation outside. He could see inmates slipping through gaps in the crowd, using the distraction to their advantage. The energy surged within him. He had a decision to make. Join the escapees, risking everything, or remain in his box, ensnared by his own fears. As sirens wailed outside and more guards flooded the area, Marcus steeled himself. He knew the risks, but sensed an urgency to act. He began shouting a coded message through the bars, hoping to reach allies who shared the same dream of freedom. "Now!" Before they lock it down again. The crowd outside began to shift, inmates rallied, and Marcus's words had ignited a spark in several others. He watched as a group of inmates rushed toward the outer fence, utilizing the chaos. Adrenaline coursed through him as fear and hope collided in his chest. Suddenly, a guard turned and spotted him, eyes wide with disbelief. But before he could react, the commotion intensified, drawing the attention of every officer in sight. In that split second, Marcus made his choice. He grabbed the metal bars, braced himself, and bellowed to his fellow inmates. "Let's go. This is our chance." As the scene unfolded, emotions erupted, anger, fear, and hope mingling in the air like a volatile storm. Each decision was a gamble, and every inch gained felt like victory. He had ignited not just the potential of escape, but the spirit of defiance against a system meant to crush them. In that pivotal moment between light and shadow, Marcus felt alive as never before, alive with the pure, raw fear of uncertainty mingled with the intoxicating taste of freedom. Would this end in tragedy or triumph? As the heavy doors echoed shut behind him, the first whispers of dawn broke over the horizon, illuminating a path that, for the first time, felt within reach. Would they breach the prison walls, or would Angola continue to cradle them in its cold embrace? The narrative of survival was written in blood and bravery, and Marcus was ready to claim his story, whatever the outcome. Because sometimes, even within the darkest places, the human spirit finds a way to seek the light.